I didn't have social media growing up. I had 17
Mm-hmm.
magazine, and it was told, I learned from 17, this is how you should look. This
Yeah.
is how you should act. And you'll get everything that you want in life. And
Mm.
I bought this card game for my family last Christmas, and it has these like provocative questions to ask just to generate conversation with the family. And one of them was like, what would you tell your teenage daughters or whatever, that is something that you wish you had done when you were younger? And I think it would have been not listening to how I was supposed to be and who I was
Totally.
supposed to be from somebody else. I should have listened to myself. I would have worn more crop tops because I had great abs and shorter shorts. I would have just been me more rather than what somebody else thought I should be.
Welcome to Are We Happy Yet? Where we're all about having the tough, thought-provoking conversations about what it really takes to live a fulfilling life, without buying into the latest wellness trends, miracle cures, or life hacks.
If you're someone who's curious and likes to dig beneath the surface, join us. We're here to explore why, despite having access to more information and technology than ever, studies show that global unhappiness is at a record high.
This question kept nagging at us. Why are so many of us feeling more anxious, disconnected, and lonely than ever before?
I'm Hannah Buzzo, licensed therapist.
And I'm Jane Thatcher Hahn, licensed clinical social worker.
Together, we'll challenge the quick fix advice culture and dive into the big questions about happiness, success, and well-being.
In each episode, we'll share candid conversations and personal stories, unpacking the cultural narratives that shape how we live, love, and work. No solutions, no formulas. Just honest, thought-provoking dialogue that invites you to think differently about the world around you and your place within it.
So whether you're feeling overwhelmed by the pressure to have it all figured out, or simply curious about what lies beyond the mainstream wellness conversation, you're in the right place.
Welcome to the club. You're not alone in wondering what will finally, truly make us happy. So back in September, when we launched the Are We Happy Yet podcast last year, we had an amazing launch party at the Lot 46 Music Bar. Hannah and I wore matching blazers and shorts, and both of our guests not only were there, but have been great supporters. And one of our guests, Niy, is actually the owner and brilliant mind behind Lot 46. So we are so happy to have you guys. Welcome, Niy, and welcome, Jen.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. We have a lot of interesting things to talk about today on the podcast, but let me introduce these wonderful women. So this is Jen Gentry sitting here next to me. I was just asking them how they identified, and they both were able to give me lots and lots of hats and identities that they have. So Jen is a fitness, I'm going to say guru, but that's not what you said. You said fitness professional. Fitness professional.
Wouldn't say guru. Yeah.
Okay. Fitness professional, real estate professional. She's a mom. She's a sister. She runs retreats. She runs Airbnb. She does all sorts of things. She's going to talk about Fit Trip that her and Niy have coming up. So welcome, Jen.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. We also have Niy Ginrich with us, who, as I mentioned, is an amazing restaurateur and started the Lot 46 Music Bar and Edgewater Pizza Inn. And I have a long history with her hanging out in her different spots that she's had all over town that she can talk about. She's also, would you call yourself a fitness professional, Niy?
Yeah.
Awesome. I would call myself a fitness, like what's the opposite of professional? Novice?
People are all over the board in their fitness journey.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes.
Appreciate that. So Niy, thank you so much for being here and sharing your time with us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Well, I know there's lots to cover today, but we can just jump in with, I'm curious about, tell us a little bit about Fit Trip that's coming up. That's the retreat that you all run. So tell us a little bit about that and how it got started and why you do it and all of that stuff.
Naya, why don't you share how it got started? Because it was really your idea that we brought together, and then we'll talk a little bit about why it's an adventure instead of a retreat.
Thank you. You've told me that before,
Uh-huh.
that it's not a retreat. Thank you.
That's good.
Okay.
Yeah, so well, it was actually a kind of intense time in my life when after Grant and I got married and we were trying to get pregnant, and I lost two pregnancies right around the time that Fit Trip became sort of an idea. And Jen and I have traveled, and we've been friends for a long time, and actually fitness is what ultimately brought us together, but we had a lot of crossover in the community without knowing each other at that point. But really, I started taking classes from her, and Susan Lewis, who joked around and said, "You want to come to Ask Class with me?" And I'm like, yeah. And so I started taking class from her, fell in love with the program, and then became an instructor. And then anyway, fast forward, when we travel together, we always incorporate workouts. It's a part of our lifestyle. It's a part of what we do, and is always a priority. So we would travel together and work out and do our own things in our own classes because we're both instructors and what have you. And then, after this time losing the two pregnancies, there was just, I feel like obviously there was this mourning and this loss that was happening, outside of the fitness and all of that. But I think I was just longing for more like deep connection, and there's something about pregnancy that is very woman. And I don't know, it just kind of all happened while I was actually in Mexico on the beach, and I was like lunging and doing this whole workout. And at that point, Melissa Davis, Jen, and I were kind of we were just sort of a self-proclaimed little fitness team, and we would go around and teach at different studios as sort of a package deal. And we were sort of the Monday, Wednesday, Friday girls. Like, we're going to bring this programming. Can you bring us all in? And it had kind of worked out that way, where we just floated around to different studios teaching. So when I got back from that trip, we all sat down for coffee, and I literally was like, hey, I had this idea. Like, we all love to travel. We all love fitness. Why don't we come together and start a company? And I mean, both of them were just like, hell yeah. Oh my God, this is what we've kind of been thinking. And what is, where do we want to take the direction of our fitness careers? Because we're all business owners in other ways that really are the bigger main focus of our other, financial income. But we started at that point brainstorming the name, and we just started planning the trip, and what are our values, what do we want it to look like, and will people show up?
And I think the main reason we kind of shied away from it being a retreat is none of the three of us are like spiritual leaders in any way, or yoga professionals, or are trained in meditation. So we didn't want people to have that expectation of what a true retreat might mean. So we called it an adventure. So kind of like choose your own adventure situation. And it's for people of all fitness levels. I think one of the reasons I was drawn into fitness, and I've been a fitness professional, or whatever you want to call me, for like 15 years now. It's a later in life career, had 3 kids. And I took this class, and I was so inspired because of the way it felt on my body. And I was not a class person. I was like a runner, get into the treadmill, quick in and out at the gym, whatever. But this class just really, it had so many different layers to it. And then the levels. So it was leveled so that it's accessible to everyone. So when I finally started teaching, excuse me, I would have a 70-year-old woman in the front row next to a 20-year-old woman in the front row doing level 1 or level 4 or whatever. So rather than, saying we've got modifications for people and taking it higher and then going down, we start low and then build up. And so you're building your strength. So it makes people feel really successful, which is nice. So even just that class in and of itself is sort of an adventure, choose your own adventure. And we all, let's face it, day to day, you've had great rest, you feel really good, you feel really strong, and you want to push yourself, or you haven't slept at all and your back aches and whatever else. So you might be a level 1 some days. So it's kind of a nice way for people to incorporate exercise that works for them. And we called the business Fit Trip adventures rather than retreats, because we want people to have their own adventure, no matter what that is. There's no, we get you there. We do take care of your food, your lodging, all of your activities, all of your workouts, but you get to pick and choose what works best for your body on a daily basis. So
awesome.
So cool. I wonder what y'all's experiences are, like how it's been for you to make different options possible. I mean, yeah, I used to be really into fitness and I just kind of like fell out of it. But I think, there's a big expectation around like Instagram. This is what you need to do. You need to do these type of workouts for this amount of time, like da 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 da. How do you guys, or what has your experience been making it a little bit more intuitive or a little bit more person-centered, in the sense of like you're trying to get someone to do what feels good for them versus just meeting like some arbitrary goal?
I don't think we actually clarified what this method is that we keep talking about, but it's called the willpower method. When we first started teaching it, it was called willpower and grace. And I think that there was this bigger element, like Jen was touching on, like there was just something that felt more meaningful with this. And it's about the accessibility, but I think it was also this sort of mind-body connection without trying to be too serious or too deep into it. There was this sort of philosophical piece that was built in that was about encouragement and support and camaraderie. And I think, and there's part of the coaching when you learn to become an instructor where you have this sort of similar language that is about something a little bit deeper, a little bit more meaningful. So it's not just about the physical aspect of it. It's about that mind-body connection, which I think no matter who we are, we have some sort of deep longing to feel something more meaningful. And so I think that was a big part of what, to kind of answer your question, where I think that it was hooking people on multiple levels. There was this big barefoot piece of it. It's a barefoot program. And it was also during the time where barefoot fitness was kind of, I feel like at least really kind of coming out there, where everybody was starting to talk about it. And so that there was a culture built around that too.
Absolutely. Yeah. The other piece to it is that we both have, so Niy and I have so much experience in fitness. We're continuing to learn constantly. As I became a fitness instructor, which was for the Willpower Method to start, the woman that created the program really just set instructors up for success. She gave you the tools that you needed to walk into a classroom, manage a classroom, take charge of the class, but also give your clients the accessibility, but also the empowerment to choose what they wanted to do and how they could do it. And then as I, fell in love with the program more and more, I became an instructor. Then I became a trainer, where I went around to different states and I trained other instructors to become instructors. And in order to do that, I had to become a personal trainer. So with my background with personal training and with Niy's experience with, also continuing education and taking the variety of classes that she takes, we really can walk into a room and understand how a person should be moving, and maybe not always, but a lot of the time, why they're not moving a certain way. Maybe it's a hip injury or a knee injury, or they might have to reduce their range of motion because their back is hurting, or whatever it might be. I think we have a lot of experience, whereas I feel like I am, and Niy probably would say the same thing. Unfortunately, I can be very judgy when I go into a class now because I know so much, and I have to just
teacher.
Yeah, I have to just take the class and enjoy it for myself and not worry about anybody else in the room. But you go to some classes where it's impossible for the instructor to walk around because they've got so many people in the room, and they can't get to the back row to the person in the far corner who is doing their whatever push-ups or whatever it might be completely wrong, and they're going to injure their shoulders at some point. Whereas we tend to have smaller classes. The class that I'm teaching right now is the Willpower Method, and I have 10 to 15 people in the room, and I can walk around, I can see them in the mirror, and I want to make sure I'm not there to work out. I'm there to make sure they're getting a good workout. And, when I became an instructor, someone had said to me, you're the best part of my day. When I was teaching on a regular basis 2 or 3 times a week, they're like, this 60 minutes is the best part of my day. And I'm so lucky to be here and so grateful for that. So I want to make sure I'm giving that to every person that walks in the door.
Well, just in the name of what we do on this podcast, which is turn a lot of things on their heads or kind of try to poke holes in things, it sounds like part of what I'm hearing is some of the issues with the fitness industry might be like maybe undereducated teachers or too full classrooms or expecting people to all do the same things. I mean, maybe this is my resistance to group exercise. Like, what do you both see within the fitness industry that's not actually like serving people's highest interests and actually helping them be healthy?
Well, one of the big things, and Niy, chime in, I think I've been seeing so much is people get so excited to create their own fitness routine or workout. And then they want to open a studio, and it's all about how it looks on social media. And it's about, it's more about the bougie look of the studio and what do I look like in these clothes and who's going to sponsor me and all those pieces, rather than they're doing it for themselves rather than doing it for their clients, which I think is a big difference. And I recently met with actually this woman, Sarah Cook, who teaches an amazing yoga class at Better Buzz Yoga at 9:30 on Tuesdays, just in case anybody wants to go.
Little plug.
Yeah. She is the person that inspired me to become an instructor. I took her class at 24 Hour Fitness and I was like, this is amazing. And then I saw my body start to change and how I felt. I felt so empowered and so much stronger. And she and I were talking about like, how can we get all of the old instructors together? And I'm 51, I'm not a young instructor. And there's not, it's a lot of young women that want to get into fitness. And I think it's awesome as long as they're continuing that fitness journey by continuing to learn and how can they help people reach their goals. And there are a plethora of instructors that are doing that. Absolutely. But I do think that there's a lot of influx of new kind of trendy ways to work out that might not be great for everyone.
Like what? Will you just spill the tea?
I'll chime in right there because I feel like maybe it's not, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jen, but it's not so much that the programming itself is flawed. I think that, to Jen's point, it's that the education and experience might just not be there. And then what we see is more that people can get injured if the instructor or the gym or whomever is not really taking extra time and care to correct form issues. And it's really a safety, issue. And that was something that was really drilled into us as willpower instructors. And the movements themselves are unique into that they are supposed to be more organic, functional movement. And we're very big into functional movement as opposed to forcing the body to do things because we're targeting this one specific muscle because it looks better. It's like we're trying to train so that we age well, so that when we fall, when we're older, we don't break something, and kind of teaching that bigger picture of it, which I think a lot of missed opportunity in the fitness world is making sure that you're really talking about the overall importance of fitness, not because the image piece of it, but how it helps protect us as we age.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Hannah, to ask you to go back and answer your question a little bit more, I've taken Pilates classes recently. This is the big one for me. I am not a Pilates instructor, but I'm very familiar with what the original Pilates should look like, whether it be on the mat or on a reformer. And there are so many different studios coming out now with either mat or reformer Pilates, and they call it Pilates, but it's not really Pilates. It's slow twitch muscle fiber movements, which can be really, really good for you, depending on your age and your ability and so forth. But again, like Niy said, it's more about what background and experience do some of these people have teaching other instructors. And there's a really good Saturday Night Live skit I will send to you guys after this. That's that kind of sums it all up.
Okay.
It's really funny. But Niy and I and Melissa too, Melissa was a part of our group previously, and now it's just Niy and I, but the three of us will go to classes sometimes, and we'll like, look over at each other like, oh my God, are you kidding me? This is crazy.
Like, this is not safe.
No. Yeah.
I mean, a red flag for me is when they talk about like weight loss and changing your body in the class. Like, I guess my question for y'all is, because what I'm hearing you say is, sure, maybe there is a little bit of an image and an appearance piece, but it's mostly to like preserve your mobility and have a life where you can move around and engage in things and not be injured. So how do y'all navigate that as like leaders and instructors when I think there is so much interest in weight loss and changing your body? Like, how do you hold both, if that question makes sense?
Sure.
I would say that in general, we have, well, it's part of why we haven't ever really become a part of a big gym or studio that ends up kind of talking about that. I think we really preach and talk about wanting to find joy in fitness and all those things that you just mentioned, why it's important to do it, and not necessarily about weight loss. We've certainly never made any claims that we're going to help people lose weight. It's never been really about that. It's about strength and empowerment. And then more than anything, and just to kind of clarify, because I know you guys don't necessarily know, but like the Fit Trip is really where it has come in, because we teach very part-time around Denver. We aren't super involved in like day-to-day coaching here. It's really become about Fit Trip, and that's where it shows up. And it's such a different experience in general. That's the fitness component is one part of it, but as it's evolved, it's really become more about a community of women and all of us kind of learning from each other and supporting each other as we all journey through life at different stages. And, realizing that it's evolved over the years, 8 years, right, Jen?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's evolved because obviously we've evolved. Like when we first started, I was always the youngest person on. Well, I'm not anymore. And now we have people from, 23 or 4 we had one year to 62. And it's so beautiful to watch how these women are learning from each other both ways, the 60-year-old learning from this 23-year-old and watching the connection that happens between women is really powerful. And then creating it in a space where we're supporting the local community, eating amazing food, cherishing food, not holding back, like healthy and nutritious, but not being about counting calories, just doing what feels good and having margaritas if we want them and working out when we want to, and giving each other space to relax and do what we need and just really have that time for ourselves. Because in general, I think it is a very common thing that women are taking care of other people. And so the Fit Trip has become an opportunity for women to really take care of themselves and each other in a way, of a different kind of and it's become almost spiritually this deep connection of women. And people's lives change after these. We hear it all the time. So, and it's more about them being like, I finally did something for myself. I mean, how often we hear that, and then giving them an opportunity to do it in a way that is very easy and comfortable for them, because we handle all of the details and we try to keep it really affordable. A lot of these, so retreats or adventures like this cost twice as much as what Jen and ours did, because we're not in it for the money. We're in it because we are making a difference, and it feels good in our souls when we get done,
Yeah, no one's in fitness for the money. I will tell you that right now. That's why I'm also a real estate agent, and Niy is also in the restaurant industry,
which is silly because I'm in 2 businesses that are not about making any money. So I just love to work really hard and make no money.
That's why you've got me, Niy.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things after listening to several of your podcast episodes that I'm hearing at the theme across the board is the word connection. Yeah. And we have we usually pick a theme that feels really authentic to us when we go on Fit Trip. And I think we used connection 2 years in a row because it really felt like that at the time was needed. And it's not just about connecting with other people, but, also to answer more about the food or the aesthetic, like how do I look or whatever aspect, or the diet aspect. It's connecting with yourself. And that's, something that we don't take time to do. So like Niy said, people having so much gratitude about taking that time for themselves, we ask them to take an hour or two within the 4 days that they're there, or 5 days that they're there, to connect with themselves and just think and talk to themselves and work through whatever they might need to work through. Just having that starter conversation with yourself about, how do I feel about fitness? How do I feel about myself? What do I want to change? What habits are good? What habits are not good? All of those things. And as a perimenopausal or menopausal woman, I'm also learning as I go and trying to be smart about having more grace with myself and with my body. I'm going to start crying.
Please do. We love tears on this podcast. We're therapists.
Yeah,
so get it.
It's right. It's really hard to allow yourself to have that grace sometimes. When you're in, you're going through your fitness journey, and you're seeing all this stuff on Instagram and on Facebook, and this is how you should look or how you should feel, and trying to give yourself that space and that allowance to still enjoy life and not feel like you have to fit into a box.
Yeah.
It's really, really important.
About it a lot over the years too, because as much as we create a conversation around very like positive, encouraging body image, self-talk, and talk to each other, we're still just women, and we the same stuff. And Jen and I, every fit trip, will be in the room getting dressed naked together, hating on our own bodies. And then we remind ourselves, like, first of all, our bodies are beautiful. And like a lot of people probably look at our bodies and are like, wow, look at them. They're ripped. They're so strong. But we still self-doubt and we still judge ourselves. And as fitness instructors and leading a group that has, fitness in the name, I think there is certainly more pressure on ourselves. Like, whoa, we want to make sure people know that, like, these are the results you get if you do the program that we do, and be an example. And as we've gone through the last 8 years of Fit Trip together, we have evolved, like Jen was saying, she had little kids when we started. I was not a mother yet. I went through loss. I went through pregnancy, nursing, weaning. She sent kids off to college. Her body is changing. My body has changed from pregnancy to, it's just, and we've had to adjust how we train. And Jen especially is doing a lot of advancement in her education right now because she's going through a change. And it's so cool for us to be able to share all of that with people and kind of take some of the studying out of it for people and be able to just share from a genuine, like, this is what it's been for us and this has been our journey and what has worked, and just to share it with people because we also love it. And then we also love to just have crazy 80s music dance parties with all these women after we've had some tequila and just keep it joyful,
Yeah. Hi, Hannah here, interrupting this amazing episode with a quick announcement. I'm so excited to be facilitating a robust, impactful couples psychedelic therapy retreat this March 13th through 16th in the mountains of beautiful Colorado. Join us for an intentional long weekend that includes therapist-led workshops, refreshing downtime in a beautiful home, guided private couples psychedelic sessions, and larger group psychedelic journeys using various psychedelic medicines, and more. If one of your goals this year is to deepen your relationship, reconnect with your partner, or invite new passion and intimacy into your partnership, this retreat is for you. Check the show notes out for more information about the retreat.
Oh, I was just going to say, add to that, 80s dance party. I mean, it's movement. All of it is movement, and it doesn't matter how much or how little you can do. You just keep moving. And we do offer all of that when we go on our adventures. We've got water aerobics. We have gentle, stretchy yoga. We have face yoga for the sagging jawline. Niy has become the expert in that. We do a little Pilates. We do just like some arm workouts with bands, whatever. We offer so many different things for different people so that they can, like we said, choose your own adventure type.
Well, that was kind of my question. Like, why do y'all think, in your professional opinion, in all the years you've been working with women and folks just around this, like, why is fitness either so, like, rigid? And I'm a mental health therapist, so I'm saying I don't see a lot of people with like healthy relationships to different things. So I see people a lot in my practice that have an unhealthy relationship to fitness or exercise or food, in the sense of they overdo it, or that they don't move at all. So why do you think it's so extreme on either end, like fitness in particular? I don't know a lot of people who have like a generally healthy, okay relationship with fitness and exercise.
Well, I think that a part of that is due to the fact that, like Jane said, she doesn't love group classes. Um, it can be really intimidating to go into a room that is hot and sweaty, and there's lots of people, and you aren't really sure what to expect or how to feel. So I think people shy away from that. And there's very little accountability when you're doing it on your own at home, unless you're into a routine and you're already doing it. It takes a good 6 to 8 weeks before the endorphins really kick in for you to feel the effects of exercise. So I think a lot of people give up after 2 weeks of being like, I'm not feeling anything. I'm not noticing a difference. I'm not excited about this, because they haven't found something that they enjoy or that they love. So maybe even just walking is plenty for some people. But I think there are lots of barriers to entry, really, of like really getting into a routine, because people don't understand the chemical imbalance going on in your body until you've actually reached that point of where you're feeling the effects of the endorphin release.
That's a tough question, Hannah. I was pondering it as I sat here and was listening to Jen's thoughts on it. And I think there's so many also like exterior factors that make it hard to establish a healthy fitness routine. One is just, I mean, if you're working a like 9 to 5 job where you're getting up early and you've got to get your kids to school at 8, and then you got to be to work at 9 and you get done at 5, and you have to make dinner and get your kids and when are you going to do it? So that limits you right there. And then I think to Jen's point, and what I was hearing her say is like, for us, we believe deeply that movement is medicine, and that it is important for all people to have movement, as Jen was saying. But you have to find something that you actually enjoy. Otherwise, it's not sustainable. And then you're getting all those other elements out of it, because the mental health clarity from movement, and the joy, because if you find something you love, as opposed to being like, oh, I have to do this. And I've always been able to love what the movement. That's part of why Jen and I got hooked on the willpower. There was like this extra element, and we loved it. And then this community evolved around it, and all of this is partly because of that. And, becoming parts of communities, little nooks here in Denver of different fitness things, because you end up kind of having a fitness tribe. And I mean, I plan my whole week around my exercises and my kid and restaurant and all that, but like, it's just a part of it. But I think there's lots of reasons why people don't have a healthy relationship with all of those things that you mentioned. And gosh, there's so many factors. Like, where do you begin?
Yeah. And yeah, I think on the opposite extreme of people overworking out, I mean, there's, again, a gazillion different directions I could take this, but because of what I'm learning now and studying as I'm aging, is that so many women, as they start to age, you start to gain the sort of visceral fat around your midsection. And there are not many ways to completely avoid it, but there are ways to be a little more graceful with your body and allowing the changes to happen, but also making changes in your fitness routine. So what I'm hearing and reading over and over and over again for women that are going through perimenopause and menopause is, I'm working my ass off. I'm lifting weights. I'm doing tons of cardio. I'm working out 7 days a week. They're overtraining their bodies, but not doing the right activities that their body needs in order to maintain their body as it is, or to allow very little of that fat buildup. It happens. It's what's going to happen to probably, I would say, 90% of women out there, because of your hormonal changes, your body changes. There are lots of things that you can do about it, but I would say that there's a lot of overtraining going on in that segment of people. And then I think, of course, we've got social media. So, people of all ages are looking at their bodies going, well, I've got to work harder so I can look like this. And again, same thing, no matter what age you're at, you might not ever look like that, because that person's body is completely different. So I think that,
And it's like not even real. I like was
yeah.
in this bougie gym for a while, and this girl who I've followed for years on Instagram, like a fitness girl, I saw her in person. I was like, this ain't the same girl. Like it's like crazy to me how like filtered and photoshopped. I mean, I know we all know that, but I think like when we're just scrolling at the end of the day where we've like ate the whole thing of ice cream and we feel like shit about ourselves, we don't think that. But I think it's like an unrealistic expectation. I mean, I don't know.
I agree. And I think what I'm just noticing in myself is like, I love the words y'all are using: strength and empowerment, connection, community, women. Like, those are values for me. I also know very intimately the research about what exercise does for our mental health and longevity and all of those things. Like, I understand intellectually. And then I think I have a resistance because I don't want to go into spaces where my body is not good enough. I don't want to go into spaces where there's lots of comparison and all of those things. So I think that's kind of where I get a little bit even hung up, even to the point where I'm like, I would like to move more, but I don't want to participate in like the toxic parts of it,
Right.
you know? So I think that's where my struggle is, I guess, you know?
And to your point, if you're concerned about that, imagine every other person that's in that room. They are also thinking the same thing. And really, everybody's just focusing on making the next movement and doing the next thing. They're not really looking at this person or that person. They're focusing on themselves. And if they're not, I kind of remind them in class, like, this class is for you and about you, and you're on your own mission here. So it doesn't matter what other level the person next to you is doing. You do you. This is your workout, your hour. So it's important to, you know, think about that. And yeah. And I think once you hit 50, you kind of really don't give a shit about what other people think.
You got 10 more years to go, Jane.
Only 9. Only 9.
9.
I think somewhere in my mid-40s, I was like, I really don't care.
But like that, I guess what you're saying is making something click. Like that almost is like a perfectionist mindset. I have to be like as good as these people and have my body is in this place. Like just bouncing this off, like Jane, it's probably would be just as fine for you to like go for walks, like, right?
Yeah.
But it's like this idea in our head of like, this is what fitness is. This is what it looks like. This is the level I have to be at in order to participate. I mean, it kind of echoes a lot of other areas I think women struggle with: career, marriage. I have to be in this place in order to be like good enough to participate.
And that's such a common thing that we hear, like, oh, I'll go on Fit Trip next year when I'm in shape. And we're like, no, it's about now. It's about taking that time for yourself now and doing something for yourself now to start your fitness journey. Even if you're just going to go for a walk with us on Fit Trip, or if you're going to hop in the pool and do a few like water aerobics movements with us, that's awesome. You start where you are and we will meet you there. It's not about feeling like you have to look a certain way or be a certain way to be with this fabulous group of women. And I will say that I feel like it started out more intense. Naya, wouldn't you agree? Like the first couple of years, it was kind of like an image. And I think people came and were sort of felt like they were expected to look a certain way or whatever. And it's completely evolved from that to be like less moms gone wild and more I'm taking some peaceful time for myself. And not everybody's a mom anymore. And some people are retired and some people are starting out their careers. You know, there's just such a variety of people that we have now.
I'm curious how you're talking about this grace and saying like, my body is going to do this thing. I can't fight that. Talk to me about, in your minds, how you have fitness goals and acceptance at the same time, you know? Because I think sometimes, and Hannah, you can speak to this with clients.
That's a great question.
I have a fitness goal, so there can't be something else. Like there can't also be acceptance of what's happening now in my body, right? Like it can either be either or, very black and white. And I think that turns people off sometimes too from movement or exercise.
Sure. Well, it's like saying all right, I'm going to move away from the fitness topic. It's like when I had kids, we were like, well, our kids are never going to watch TV until they're like 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you learn really quick. You're going to stick your kids in front of the TV as often as you have to. It can't be all or nothing. You have to give yourself some wiggle room. So I like alcohol. I like cocktails. I'm not going to completely give that up, even though all of the professionals that are teaching all these menopause courses are saying like alcohol is one of the worst things for your body. I'm not going to give up dessert all the time. I can't do the all or nothing because that will break me. I probably would go the complete opposite direction. So I think it's setting goals for yourself that are realistic, just like with anything else in life. Any goals that we set have to be realistic, because when you set that expectation and that bar so high for yourself, you're so horribly disappointed when you don't get there. And oftentimes we don't, because we set the bar too high. And then that's so much pressure on yourself for you to not be able to follow through.
Yeah. And I think for me too, it's also been this, I'm working right now in some personal therapy about trying to get out of my head and just feel, and not try to respond to the feeling or judge whether that feeling is appropriate or mature or responsible, but just feel, like identify, like, what am I feeling right now? And to almost, recognize it and then just let it go where it was. And, right now I would say I am like on my fitness journey, like my body is finally kind of at a spot where I'm for the most part happier than I've been, but I recognize this from a deep cultural place of like, I know I am strong. I know I work out enough, more than the average person. I'm in the size pants that I want. I will still have a day where I wake up and I literally see something else in the mirror. I look in the mirror and I'm like, you are so fat and disgusting. And I know I'm not, but like, we still all have that, I think, right? I have never met a woman who doesn't. And being like, oh God, okay, that's how I feel. And maybe I'll feel different tomorrow. And allowing us all to have a little grace to be like, nobody's perfect. Nobody's above that. At least I certainly have never figured out how to be kinder to myself in that way. I have some moments where I do, and be like, oh, all right, you look all right today. But for the most part, we're all our biggest critic. And, so having grace where it's like, I'm still going to keep my eyes on the prize. But like, as I've gone through this, I've always worked out really hard. I'm addicted to exercise, right? Like, it is a part of my mental health goes first if I'm not moving my body in that way. And I think we could go into a whole other thing. I would love to talk about like somatic energy work and the release in your body and your nervous system and what it does for that and why we can get addicted to it. And it's necessary to move. But, and Jen and I have found something that's been, our relationship has been so beautiful. Now we are like, sisters. We always call them like, hey, big sis. And we will remind each other sometimes, like I'll hear her say something and I'll be like, God, Jen, I wish you could see yourself through my eyes, because I have always looked at Jen and thought that she was strong and beautiful. And she'll say the same thing about me. And like, I believe it when she says that to me. And I think there's something about that magic that happens on Fit Trip when we are all just around people who are giving each other the benefit of the doubt and seeing each other with love and compassion. And then it helps us maybe have a little bit for ourselves. At least it does for me.
The thing that is really coming up for me as you ladies talk, and I know this isn't going to be like a brain buster for you, but the perfectionism and the shoulds, like fitness and exercise is just like a breeding ground for those. And then we get the same like trip ups that we do in any, like whether it's financial perfectionism or I should be doing this, like, and it prevents us from doing the thing that like would probably benefit us the most, which is like just doing it as much as you can when doing exercise that feels good when you can most of the time, right? Totally. Instead of this like image and this expectation and what you were saying, Jen, about like setting it up in this way, which you fucking hate it. It's like, why are we all doing that to ourselves instead of just like going for a walk and like going to a class you like a week, like a day a week? It's kind of wild. The mindset piece and like the mental gymnastics.
Yeah, I think it's just so important to move your body and keep moving. It's just like, just do it. You just have to start a routine And it doesn't matter if it's just walking, it's just something every day. I think it's so important. And like Naya said, after having kids, it was my peace of mind to be able to have that time to myself. And even if it was just for 30 minutes, I made sure at least 6 days a week, I was out the door doing something for myself, a walk, a run, upstairs in the attic, lifting weights, whatever it was. And I still revolve my entire weekly schedule around my workouts and when I'm going to have that time for myself, because my husband would always say, like, oh, you didn't work out today, did you? Because he could tell how crabby I was at the end of the day because I wasn't scheduling that first and making that a priority. And I think we as women make everyone else and everything else our priority. And it's not even really an excuse. It's just like, it feels like that's our responsibility, is to take care of everybody else first. And it's not. Your responsibility is to take care of yourself first, period. Then you can take care of everybody else. And if you continue to allow yourself to prioritize everyone else first, that's when you're going to lose your shit. And you're going to resent your spouse, resent your kids, resent work, whatever it is. So you have to make sure you take that time for yourself, no matter what it is.
And Naya, you mentioned, and I'd love to hear both of your thoughts on this, the somatic, the way that energy is moving when you exercise. I mean, what is happening beyond this? I think that some people do just exercise because they want to look a certain way. So what's happening beyond that for your body, for your mind, your spirit, your energy, all those things?
Yeah, for sure. I don't have like the scientific perfect explanation, but I know from experience what it does for me. And then also my mom runs an ecstatic dance community called Rhythm Sanctuary. Yeah. And I see through her work what she does, because a lot of the movements that you see in there, they call, it is just more of a natural, like organic release of movement. And it is not a choreographed class. It is not any of this. It is like the actual nervous system being able to have permission to release itself in whatever way, no matter how that looks, is silly or crazy or simple or whatever it might be. But there is a lot of research out there about the nervous system and how it is. If you think about, one of the things I read was about animals, and you think about an animal after they get into a fight, or if they get into a nervous situation where they're, checking out another animal, a dog, imagine it now, a cat, any of them, they do that like shake where they literally, and that is a like an intuitive nervous system function that manifests physically. And so I've actually found myself sometimes, if I'm like clenching or I'm doing something because something's intense or what have you, if I actually get up and just like shake my whole body, like literally shake my limbs and shake everything, I have a nervous system release. It's like, it's almost that big, deep inhale and exhale. And so you're getting that through fitness too, which is super important.
What have you guys seen on your trips? Like, you posed a good question. I kind of feel like I'm going to make it, it's not my choice. Jane, if you like it. The title of this episode, how can we find joy in fitness? I think has been like a question that like, what do y'all think? Like, what have you seen on your fit trips, your adventures? Like, how do we find joy in fitness?
Well, first of all, I do have the word joy tattooed on my forearm. So
there we go.
Yeah. And that's, for me, that has just been sort of my mantra. I think as I've grown into adulthood, is to find the joy every day in whatever. It might not be, it usually is fitness, but not always. I just think it's so important to find something you enjoy, and you'll hear that over and over and over again. I aren't the first people to say that. You're going to build a lasting relationship with exercise if you find something you enjoy. At the same time, it's also fun to switch it up too and try other things, because if you are looking for results of some sort, doing the same thing might not be beneficial to your body, depending on your age and what your goals are and all of those things. But, if you enjoy dancing, turn on some music and dance for 30 minutes. If you enjoy nature and walking, get out and walk for 30 or 40 minutes, whatever. You start somewhere, even if it's small, and then see if you can progress that and make it a longer period of time. There's so much that's accessible now online too.
Yeah.
Play around with different modalities and see what feels good. But I would also say, check with the doctor, make sure it's good for your body. And, if you have any medical conditions, I would say it's important to check in and make sure that what you're doing is safe and effective. Check in with a personal trainer, maybe do a couple of sessions with a personal trainer that might be able to show you how to do the movements effectively and efficiently and correctly, most importantly. Niy, what else would you say?
Yeah, well, I think you had said, like, how have we seen people on Fit Trip find joy in fitness? And I think that is something really cool that we have witnessed, where it's part of why Jen and I try and teach so many different styles on the class. And we definitely have like sort of our favorite style, if you will, but we have expanded over the years. And so we're really trying to put a bunch of different styles and options, and even if it's just like a movement in itself, in front of these people that potentially have only ever done their one thing. You get the person who's just the runner and they're usually running, or you get the person who hates group classes, or whatever, you get the yogi. And then when they end up having an opportunity to try out different things, they might end up just finding something they love. And we've seen that a lot, where it's like, oh, I never thought I would like this, and now I do. So that's been really cool. But to circle back, I think, Hannah, you had said it a couple times, and you too, Jane, like sometimes it's not everybody's going to be a group fitness person. And what I touched on earlier, like I hear from a lot of women, like we all, for the most part, I think, have pretty flexible schedules with our profession. A lot of women do not have that flexibility. Men in general too. I mean, everybody, where you add up the hours of the week between travel and what your actual work schedule is, it's not that easy for people to squeeze in a noon class or a 9 class or whatever that we get to do. So get it in where you can. Like you said, Hannah, like if it's just this, and as much as it's great to try all these new things too, I think especially as we get older, but in general, do what works. Like if you know something that you already really like, lean into that and do that, because it's going to be less of a forced thing if it's like, oh, I already know I like this, I'm comfortable in it, whatever.
Totally.
I almost wonder too about just generally our cultural disconnect from our bodies and the encouragement of women to be disconnected from their bodies, and just then instead of exercise and movement being a joyful sort of visceral wild thing, it goes under the box of I should do it this way, or I should be working out, I should be blah 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 blah, and then something that's like a natural joy that we just have, we're having trouble accessing sometimes.
100%. There's something there of like women, we have to go do this like regimen that we see on social media. Like meanwhile, like these men I know are like throwing weights around and just fucking like playing softball on a Tuesday night, like whatever, right? But like this regimented, this is what you should be doing, instead of what you like ladies are saying, play, use curiosity. What do you like? What feels good for you, right?
Totally.
Absolutely. I was just going to say too, I think one of the things, back to the finding joy in fitness on Fit Trip, we have found women building these connections with people they've never met before.
Yeah.
I have 2 women in my neighborhood that met on Fit Trip and had never met before, and they walk and hike all the time together. They've hiked the Grand Canyon at least once, if not twice together. This is Niy, Susan, and Anne. And they do stuff together all the time now, and that's just one example. But they have found joy in something that has bonded them together, and which is really lovely. So we've seen these relationships transform, and women holding other women accountable for putting themselves first. So I think if you reframe fitness a little bit as that, maybe it would change. Movement. I'm putting myself first for 30 minutes today or an hour today or whatever it is, and I'm going to move my body in a way that feels good to me. that's what's most important. And I think then the joy comes.
That's a really good point, Jen, that I feel like somehow we skimmed over, we didn't say, because maybe it's just been so obvious in our lives, but having a partner in crime, if you will, you know, like Jen and I are literally texting every week about like, hey, what are we doing this week? You want to do this? You want to do that? And it's not always just about the fitness piece of it. It's about the connection and having somebody that you have something in common with and doing it together. And I think that helps build the encouragement factor, the support, all of that. And you're getting lots of other things out of it. But having a buddy to do movement with in whatever way, I think is really helpful.
Especially if you want to try something new that you've never tried before.
Yeah.
Now you want to go try this class with me? I think I'll probably be the oldest person in the room, but let's try it.
Well, I love the idea of women holding each other accountable for putting themselves first. I haven't thought of it in that way, but I think what you're really saying is we're not holding each other accountable to a beauty standard. We're holding each other accountable to joy and taking care of ourselves and connecting with ourselves and making sure that person, like your partner, is doing the same. You know, that's pretty profound. I can't think of a lot of ways. I'm sure there's lots of ways, but I think like we're so busy in our friendships, we're often not holding each other accountable to really caring for ourselves. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
My friend in my book club, hey Kate, she kind of felt this, and so she started this Instagram page. I'll link it in the show notes. It's called Colorado Free Workouts, and she saw one of the barriers being like, people want to try this, but obviously cost is a barrier. And so every week she posts a class a day that's free in the Denver area, whether it be online or in person. So we can link that. But I think that's another piece too of like, how do we make this more accessible? Is it going with someone? Is it trying a free class? Like whatever we can do to get the barrier to entry. I think Jen, you said a little bit lower.
And my class, most drop-ins are $28 to $30. I charge $15 a class for anybody that wants to come try my class.
Cool.
And also the Denver rec centers are pretty phenomenal. I mean, they're small, but they get the job done. In November, they offer a special where it's $200 for the year, and you can access any Denver rec center that you want to go to that's convenient.
Wow.
So some of them have, like Rudy Rec Center, I know has a much nicer gym than like Ashland or Berkeley, which are down the street from me and more accessible, but that's pretty cheap. So it's a good option. And they offer classes, they offer water aerobics. Niy and I have checked it out. They've got swimming lanes, the whole 9 yards. So finding that it's easy to find something that you might enjoy there.
Right.
The water aerobics class that Jen and I did recently at the rec center was amazing. It was like chatty. I mean, first of all, it was packed and it was like social hour in there. Everybody's just whipping their foam weights around, chit-chatting about what their grandbaby did. It was so fun. I was like, yes, this is it. Boy and goodness.
Awesome. And we were probably the youngest people in the pool, myself included.
We were.
That was fun. But it was awesome. We got a good workout, and it was really fun to see that.
Some of my bar regulars were in there.
Men and women working out together. It was really sweet.
So cool.
If you guys, so you both have daughters, what would be like your wish for them, for their relationship with their bodies, fitness?
Oh my gosh.
Should I have asked this at the beginning?
That's a good question.
You want to go first, Niy?
Gosh, I mean, I was just going to say it's a hard one, right? Because it's easy to say what the obvious answer is, right? We want them to have a healthy relationship. We want them to see themselves strong and beautiful no matter what, right? I mean, but it sounds kind of generic, even though I think that's true for probably every mother or parent out there, that what we want for our child. But I think just more to the same of everything that we've been saying is like, I've been doing that with Harlow, my daughter, where I help create opportunities for her to move her body and then let her decide what she really loves. I definitely, outside of like, we really wanted her to swim just because of what we knew our lifestyle would be around water. So we kind of forced her to learn to swim. But otherwise, we have let her kind of self-discover what brings her joy in her movement. And, we've tried soccer, we tried out all these things without putting pressure on it. And she found gymnastics, and I think it's going to be her thing, and she loves it. And we'll just support and encourage her to do ways to move her body and in a way that brings her joy and not make it about anything else. And, just like we try to have her eat right because it's the right thing to do and you feel better. And we know all the reasons why it's important to eat well and, just kind of teach from that way. I also am very careful about how I talk about my body around her. But it's hard because it's like you also want to have an authentic conversation, I think. And, me saying what I said to you guys earlier about like seeing myself in the mirror and hating it sometimes is also a reality. And it's like, we don't want to, just like when I went through the miscarriages, there was this really weird taboo experience around miscarriage where it was like, oh, this is why you don't tell anyone until you're 12 or 13 weeks. And I'm like, that is bullshit. What? So you suffer alone when you lose it? Like, so, I don't know. There's like, what is that fine line? Like, of course I don't want Harlow hear me say that I think I'm fat and ugly one day, but you also want them to know that like, this is a journey and it's hard. And like the social media game is real. And what we see on magazines it's not real, but it also is a part of our reality. And, how do you? Jen's done an amazing job and her kids are all super athletic, but what would you say, Jen?
I mean, yeah, like you said, it's a balance of what you talk about and what you disclose or share with your kids. I think I have one daughter that has definitely is very concerned with the way that she looks. And that's probably partly my fault. She's the oldest and she's probably going to listen to this and go, oh, Mom. And I probably, have said things to her that I maybe shouldn't, maybe I've overshared how I feel about myself on particular occasions. Now, but I do feel that even if she's putting on a show or the other girls are putting on a show, all three of my girls have so much more confidence than I ever had when I was that age. And I think they have, in a way, said, I am going to go against social media and all of this, and I'm going to be strong and confident. And even if they're doing it just to put on a game face and make themselves feel better, other people feel better, they do a really good job of it. They are way stronger and more confident than I probably still am. It's really incredible to watch. And it's inspiring to, to see them. Like my youngest daughter wants to play college soccer, and there were some coaches that were watching her the other day, and afterwards, she went up to one of the coaches and said, I've already spoken with so-and-so at CSU, and I am really excited to learn more about CSU, and I'm Leah Gentry, and you can watch me again next weekend. And I'm like, who are you? Where did you come from? My 16-year-old kid going up to adults and trying to, tell them who she is, and I'm good, and you need me. So that's, it's such a balance, of being real and raw, and not sharing too much.
Yeah. Oh man, God bless you mothers, I'm just here with my cat, telling her she's the cutest little baby.
She's pretty cute. She is cute.
All right, Hannah, what do you think? Is it time for our final wrap-up question? Okay.
Let's ask these ladies.
Okay. Me?
So if I can do it. You did the intro, so I'll step up today. Okay, so kind of our closing question is, of all the things that you've been told, taught, programmed, learned that would create a meaningful life or a happy life, what is one of them that throughout your journey you've kind of unpacked is not quite true for you?
Jen, are you ready? I'm like, I still need a minute to chew on that, I think.
I know, I do too. Well, I mean, I guess it goes back to body image. And I mean, if I can kind of put that out there again, what I didn't have social media growing up. I had 17 magazine, and it was told, I learned from 17, this is how you should look. This is how you should act. And you'll get everything that you want in life. And I bought this card game for my family last Christmas, and it has these like provocative questions to ask just to generate conversation with the family. And one of them was like, what would you tell your teenage daughters or whatever, that is something that you wish you had done when you were younger. And I think it would have been not listening to how I was supposed to be and who I was supposed to be from somebody else. I should have listened to myself. I would have worn more crop tops because I had great abs and shorter shorts. And I would have just been me more rather than what somebody else thought I should be. Does that answer the question?
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know. I mean, I guess I would just say that in general, that maybe the idea of what you want your life to look like at one point doesn't end up being your life, and to have flexibility that might change. We're going to change, and what we want and need is going to change. And so as we are going through life, that we just hold space for these different things that will bring us happiness in our life are going to change and adapt, and that we need to be flexible and go with it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like maybe there's sort of like there's an idea that it's going to be fixed or static, what makes you happy, and that it's got to be able to change over time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just like I've been with my husband for 16 years, and we've been talking about how you may end up being married to, if you make it through it, which it's tough, that you might end up being married to like 3 different people in that same person.
Yes, totally.
We change. So,
Well, it's definitely not. Yeah, the second piece to that is that it's not cookie cutter. It's not storybook. It's not Cinderella.
Right.
Life is not meant to be like that. It has lots of up and downs and lots of struggles. And it's how you make it to the other side of that challenge. Do you make it with grace and being true to yourself?
Right.
Or do you bear down and fight through it, and then you're bitter and angry on the other side, So it's, I think that's the biggest lesson to learn that I've learned, is that everything can't be perfect all the time, and you can't be 100% at everything all of the time. There's a flexibility for sure.
Don't you guys hate though when you're like vibing and like having a good couple of days, and then something happens that like fucks up your vibe, and you're like, really? Like I could have just been like coasting on this good feeling for a while. I agree about the flexibility. I also think it's a pain in the ass that we have to do that.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's such is life.
Yeah, you've got to find a little bit of joy every day, no matter what.
Okay, tell us about Fit Trip and where people can learn more about the classes that you do run locally and Fit Trip. If people are feeling really inspired, where can they get connected with you ladies?
Sure.
We are not amazing at our social media game, but we are working on it. But we are, of course, on Instagram, Fit Trip Adventures. Okay. And we are also, we've got a website that it acts as the sort of function piece of booking and information. So that is also fittripadventures.com. And there's a direct link for both of our upcoming trips, which we do have a couple spots left on each one of our trips coming up. One is right around the corner. We are going to Isla Mujeres in February 7th through the 11th, which is the Island of Women. And then our next one is March 6th through the 10th, and that one is in Todos Santos, Cerritos area on the Baja Peninsula. So all the information, all the details are on our website. And Jen is teaching right now close by. I'll let you jump in.
Yes. So definitely reach out if you're interested there. I checked the other day for the Isla tickets. You can still fly into Cancun round trip for around $500, which is crazy because it's less than 2 weeks out. And we do have a couple of spots that we are willing to, if you're listening to this podcast, give you a discount for. So let us know. I am teaching just once a week right now, 9:00 on Mondays, which, gosh, I really don't love teaching on Mondays, but you know what? It's a blessing too, to be able to teach on Mondays, because I feel like it's kind of a good start to your week. So 9:00, $15, Kettlebell and Co. I'm teaching the willpower method, which is essentially a barefoot cardio sculpt class. It's the best way to describe it. Just body weight exercises, no weights. Think Pilates meets yoga, meets plyometrics, meets great for your body, all of it. So 9 a.m. on Mondays at Kettlebell & Co. And that's
Awesome.
by Sloan's Lake, 23rd and Newton.
And
I am not teaching currently right now. I bought the pizza parlor 2 years ago and then built a music venue, as we all mentioned earlier. So I'll just drop my plug in. Come support us at Lot 46 Music Bar, live music and amazing pizza.
The pizza is so good. I
so
literally
good.
think about it like every week.
Thank you.
The music's good. The pizza's good. It's too cold right now, but the lot is gorgeous. Hannah and I, like we said, had an amazing party there. It was so fun. All this stuff we will link and make sure people can access you. And we'll make sure to get the info about a discount if you're listening to this podcast. I think we covered a lot of ground. Thank you guys so much for being here and sharing.
I was kind of thinking, how are we going to fill up so much time? And that was just really lovely to have this conversation with you guys. What great questions and very thoughtful.
Aww.
Thank you.
It's lovely. We can talk about anything.
Yeah. We'll figure it out.
Put a few women in a room.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thanks, ladies. This was really great.
Thank you very much.
So much.
You've been listening to Are We Happy Yet? A Green Roof Studios production. This episode was recorded and produced by Hannah Buzzo and Jane Thatcher Hahn.
If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love for you to rate, review, subscribe, and share it with someone you care about. Your support helps us reach more listeners. And for every rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, we're donating to a charity connected to one of our guests. Check the show notes for more details on this month's featured charity.
Thanks for listening. See you next time.